Welcome to the program, Leezá.
Thank you, Annie. It's lovely to be here.
It's great to have you on the show today. I always enjoy our discussions, and I'm really looking forward to you sharing your wisdom with our viewers today. I'd love you to share a little bit about your journey. You became an executive women's coach, and you're recognized by Forbes Council, as I mentioned before. So a significant impact that you're having in women's lives. But I also know that on your journey, you focus then on overcoming discrimination, people who are overcoming the complexities and the damage of crises. Why did you actually make that your specialty as a coach of women in business?
Well, I didn't actually make it. It kind of evolved that way. I wish I'd had the foresight to have decided that. My desire was to support people on their paths, and it was really through the healing of my own experiences of growing up in violence. My father was a war veteran, and he brought back home a lot of his rage and trauma from war, what they now know as PTSD. At that time, they didn't have a word for that. But the impact was severe. And so I grew up with a given sense of not having value, neither as a person or especially as a female. And I thought that's just the way of the world. I looked around me, especially in business, and saw that it was very male dominated, and they were in the positions of power and of decision making. And so I struggled with the fact that I wasn't having an opportunity to express my potential. I didn't have the chances to excel the way that I felt that I could. And so then in healing my relationship with my father, first healing the trauma in myself, I recognize that I'm actually not the only one who's experiencing that. The more that I found my value and understood that I bring gifts to the table just like everybody else, including men, I was perplexed as to why other people didn't recognize that and why these inequalities existed in the business world. And so it just evolved in my work that I started helping women to recognize their value and to face the discrimination and other challenges that they do face.
Thank you for sharing. Was it a revelation once you had that sort of season of awakening for yourself when you were dealing with those issues with your father and trauma that you'd overcome? And often at those younger stages of life, that's enough. That's all we can focus on. And then you suddenly look left, look right, and think, you know what? I represent women around the world. So many of us actually have issues with sense of self, of value, of worth. And so did you actually have a moment that you went, you know what, I can champion change in this area?
I think it was more gradual than a specific moment. So I spent most of my life overseas. So I grew up in the United States of America. My first husband was a pilot for Lufthansa. So I worked and traveled in literally dozens of countries. And there was a common thread of women, beautiful women, intelligent, dynamic, with so much capability and desire to serve and advocate for change, and they couldn't get ahead. And it didn't matter what continent and what country. And so with time, I just started having conversations with them, and then women gravitated toward me, and I developed a program, the C.O.R.E. Female Leadership. And so it was an evolution, I'll say, rather than a flip of a switch.
I love it when these evolutions create a bit of a revolution that's just my personal opinion, Leezá. So when you look at the choice of not to respond to the inequality, the imbalances on business, particularly because there's a business show, but definitely personally, from women being able to really step into their best selves, their potential, what do you see as the impact or the risk for society or business because of that?
Well, I'm not going to frame it as not responding to the inequalities. Actually, Annie, perhaps just the opposite. I speak directly to it. What I have found is I speak to the fact that we have to shatter the glass ceiling within ourselves first. It's never going to change out there in the world unless each one of us makes those changes within ourselves. And that's not an easy task because it's a paradigm. I know that the one that I was brought up in was such a given. When I started to grasp that, wait a minute, you mean I have equal value? Wait, how does that work? Like, it was such a foreign concept for me. So what I have found is to help people in general, but especially women, to understand you are of incredible value. Look at yourself. And if that's not being acknowledged in the workplace, or you're settling for less than, speak to that. Not out of judgment, not out of being better or worse, but to speak to what is not working, and then bring your value as that being a given. And so what I often say is there is no number one and there's no number two. They're fallacies. I don't know if that answers the question.
You sure did. And so my perspective is I see women, I coach women around the world, as do you, and so many women settle. So many women self-sacrifice, and, you know, and there's a cost to that, right? There's definitely a cost personally, but I think there's a real sad cost to potential businesses who would value so much from them being in that space and adding their worth there. So what's your thoughts on there? Why are women settling when they're really deep down, when they share with us, they want more? They would definitely want more authenticity. They want more opportunities, but they do settle in businesses sometimes for decades.
I think that it is it's an ingrained, again, worldview or vision or experience of themselves. So I also facilitate strategic planning specifically for women entrepreneurs and small business owners. And at the beginning, when I started doing those trainings, I thought, well, I want to make available to them the same strategic planning process that big companies get, right, when I go in and do that. And what I consistently found was it wasn't the planning process. That ended up being secondary. What became the focus of the training of these strategic planning processes is that women first need to come to understand that they have the power within themselves, and they have the right, not only the right, but the responsibility to bring that out into the world. So they do this amazing work, as you say. You know, I've worked with scientists and artists and media specialists. And each one of them, they get to a point where they're like, well, do I really deserve to do this? Like, can I really ask for that much money? Is it okay if I go out and I say I'm an expert in this field? There's such a reticence. And so that hurdle needs to first be overcome before they can actually put into gear the plans and go out into the world and bring their gifts to the world. So again, I come back, it's this internal challenge, this internal wrestling match that needs to be resolved before they can actually bring to the world the business that they are good at.
So true. I often wrestle with that point of women waiting for permission to rise up and to be in that space, you know, like waiting for permission to be asked onto a board, waiting for permission to say, for someone to say, hey, you should go for that role. It's like, why are we asking for permission? And then also being apologetic about, you know, our gifts and talents. You know, it's like, oh, sorry, if you don't want that, you know, advice, or you don't want this. It's kind of like this back thing. And it all does link to worth and value. We're going to take a quick break now, and after the break, we are going to start unpacking some of Leeza's fantastic strategies that she helps women to be able to really step into their space, step into their power, step into understanding, once they value their true wealth, what could actually happen in their world. I look forward to seeing you back in a little minute. How's that, team? Good. Beautiful, Leezá. You're on fire.
Yay.
All righty. Yay. So we're going to come back from the break now. This 9 minutes, we're going to be going, this will be your example. So case studies, clients, you know, it's your way to go. Here's a scenario. So you can see how these sorts of, once you go into this, you know, start going, I want to overcome this. What does it actually look like? All right. All right. Q4, take one. Welcome back to the program. Leezá, before the break, we were talking about how important it is for women to, you know, value themselves, own their worth, and to be able to really rise above and take their position at the table in business and definitely in life. I'd love you to now be able to share some scenarios, people that you've worked with, how you have actually helped women shift that power dynamic. Sometimes it's almost like a palpable, wow, now I've had this revelation. What does it actually look like? Would you be able to do that for us?
Yes, the one woman comes to mind, and I I have lovingly referred to her as my poster child, um, because of the profound change that she made in her life. And what I say is I struggle, I guess, with the word help. What I do is I remind people, like, they have the value, they have the beauty and goodness, they've forgotten it, or they've been convinced it's not there. So this particular woman was a director at a large manufacturing company on the East Coast of the United States. And she had brought up charges against her boss for discrimination. And so they called me in to work with her to try and help resolve the situation, make things flow more smoothly. And so I initially talked with the HR department, and I was told that she, Ellen, we'll call her, that she was kind of surly, didn't want to go on camera. This was before COVID, but still they worked a lot internationally, and so they used the form of virtual meetings. She didn't want to go on camera. She complained a lot, just was kind of unhappy in her work environment. And apparently her boss had been quite harsh with her, and she felt was discriminating against her more so than with the males on the team. So in working with her, we came to a place of her looking back in, and I have some intake questionnaires with, digging back into different themes and patterns and things like that. And she recognized that she was a first generation immigrant. So her parents came over from another country. And in coming here, they were isolated, if you will, in their own environment. And so she had memories of her mother and her aunts being submissive. They couldn't speak the language. They stayed home and did the housework, and they weren't given an opportunity to go out and to blend with the culture. And with time, of course, she grew up here. She spoke the language. She was fluent. She has her American passport. However, in herself, she still carried this vision, this experience of women as being less than. And so when she recognized that that was a core belief of hers that was informing everything, she asked herself through our work of, is that really true? Do you believe that? And part of my background is in Socratic dialogue, so I use a lot of questions. And she ended up saying, actually, I don't believe that. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me, but that's what she'd grown up with. When she changed that core belief, it was phenomenal. That was really like flipping a switch, that she ended up being able to talk to her boss in a way with other communication tools that I offered her, in such a way that she was able to make clear to him what he was doing that she felt was discriminatory. And so with time, they were able to heal their relationship, became functional. They actually became a really, I'm going to say, productive team. And about, I don't know, maybe 7-8 months later, I got a phone call from the HR director. And she gets on the phone with me and she said, "What did you do to Ellen?" And I said, "What do you mean, what did I do to Ellen?" She said, "She's a completely different person. As a matter of fact, she is now being considered for one of the top executive positions in the entire global company." I was like, "You're kidding me." So, and when I've worked with her since then, she just does spot checks, if you will. She said that that was such a profound shift for her, and not only in her professional world, but she said what gives her the most joy is that she has a daughter, and that she is now able to help her daughter see and live in a world where she knows her own value, whatever the external structures are, that this young girl is growing up in the same value system that she now has groomed for herself. And she's in an amazing position now. So that's one story I can share that I'm really happy about.
You should be really happy and proud. I love those stories, because it seriously just changes people's lives. I mean, it's just so much power there. I also love what you share, that, she's role modeling. She's role modeling to her daughter. So those beliefs won't automatically then get transferred down to future generations. And they do so easily. We have so many unconscious beliefs, biases that often we don't even surface. We're just like, I don't know why I do this or believe this. It's just there. And so there's so much value and power. I love that strategy of unpacking that and asking questions, Leezá. I love your approach to that, because, for me, I'm often thinking, and I tell my clients, well, what would happen if you actually showed up at this opportunity without those beliefs, whether you had them or whether anyone has them? If you have equal opportunity, equal worth, equal merit, be able to, just show up unapologetic, what would change? And immediately they go, oh, well, if I didn't have those truths, I would be so different. I would be doing this and this and this. And you go, aha, well, then it's a great time, as you said, to go, well, where do those truths come from, and are they really true? You must see that day in, day out, that beliefs that women have are often just because of, it might be often because of childhood, could be cultural, could be because of past trauma experiences. There's a whole cocktail, and we're all so unique and different. But it's amazing how we believe they are so true when they're just it's a view.
Absolutely. And what I'm finding as I'm listening to you lay that out so clearly, Annie, I love the word cocktail. It's true. We come with different mixtures of experiences that have created the beliefs that we use to look at the world through, right? Like a lens. What I recognize is that when I work with women, I didn't have to, but the fact that I worked through the issues that I had and the beliefs, the limiting beliefs that I held about myself and about other women or other people, that when I encounter women who have those beliefs, how should I say it? It's not that I discount them. They're totally valid, but I can see through them to their value. So, and in that holding for true what their value is, it's almost that they have more ease to let go of those limiting beliefs. It's like, oh, I don't have to hold that. I don't have to fight for them. I don't have to defend them. And I also don't have to cater to them. They're just become a non sequitur. It's like, oh, I don't need those anymore. So it's kind of a fun thing to observe that they fall away more easily when the environment is affirming the value of the individual.
I'm a strong believer of, if you actually give away and hand those previous beliefs over, and the power and the energy and the time and sometimes the money that they actually sort of resulted in, and then because you've given them away, you've got space now to put that into this new empowered future that you're going to step into, you're going to inherit. I mean, it's just then a no-brainer. It's like, oh my gosh, when I don't have all that weight, all that waste, I've then free. And I think from a business perspective, I just love that. That's my happy place, when I actually see people go, I went for that role, even though my previous self wouldn't have. I had that negotiation and I went all guns firing, even when I was, fearful or scared inside because of where I'm at in my journey. I mean, that's where things really get exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic conversation. We are going to take another break now. And after the break, we're going to have your fantastic viewer questions directed at Leezá. I get questions brought in all week through the Hi Annie hotline. And I tell you what, they are so fantastic because they represent a commonality in thoughts, opinions, concerns that women all around the globe are having right now. And it's great to be able to bring them to our specialist guests. I will see you in a minute. Time good? Time good. Oh, very good. Yay. Well done. All righty, we're on the home stretch. Sorry you can't hear this, Hannah. All righty, you just get to hear my chitter-chatter while I'm talking to Leezá. All righty. So, Leezá, so your question was, can you share a practical tip or exercise that viewers can implement in their own lives to start showing out more authentically in their career? All right. So your question, when it comes in, we'll get someone to ask this. It'll say, hi, Annie, I want to show up more authentically because I'm sick of getting discriminated against. What are some tips that what I can do right now to start shifting that? Right. That would be a classic question. All right. Yep. Another question might be that I feel, because we could shoot to two questions. The second question could be that I don't feel in my business that people truly see me. I've got cultural differences. I think differently. What's your advice? Should I stay or should I go? Because that allows you to talk to, actually finding out what you want in your life and what is important to you and why you're struggling with this. And that might be the secret to what you need to move to. Are you happy with those two questions, or would you prefer anything else?
Well, the second one is a little, it's going to be, it's hard to make that a general question, right? Because
okay, forget that one then.
I can speak to it. I'm just not sure if it'll be to your satisfaction.
All right. What would you like the second question to be?
Oh goodness gracious, Annie. I can't think of one, so let's go with that.
What's the main question that people ask you day in, day out, Leezá?
Well, what if I am as bad as people tell me I am?
Yeah. I love all this empowerment conversation, but what if my best still isn't good enough?
Yeah.
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 All righty. So keep those in your head. We won't have to. So you've got two approaches. I'm going to go, thanks for your viewer questions, directing it straight to you, Leezá. You'll just wait 2 seconds and then you'll just look straight out and go, great question, and then start answering it. Okay. I'll chitter chatter and go back. My next question straight to you, Leezá, and you'll go, oh, another great question. So I don't have to re-ask them. So just get your thoughts on 2 things. Yeah. And then we'll slot those question videos in later in post.
Okay, so you're not going to be asking those questions at all?
No. No.
Okay. Okay, so the first one is
what was the first one again, Mary? First one was, how do you show up authentically?
Okay. How do you show up authentically? And the second one is,
it's all nice to go. I think the other side of that is all nice to go, oh, now I'm showing up authentically. But what if that, how do I show up authentically and still make sure that I still want to be promoted. I still want to do good business. Do you know what I mean? Like you can go, oh, this is who I am, but then you lose your job over that, right? Yeah. So how do you do that in a way of empowerment? Yeah. So how do I show up authentically? And the second one will be, what if I feel that my best isn't good enough and, and then I feel still stuck. All righty?
Just going to make a note because I'm afraid I'm going to forget
Write your little notes. Oh, goodness. So hot in here. So you have to turn the aircon off because of the sound. Oh my gosh. So if you're sweating, it's whew.
Okay.
I know, because I'm like seriously having menopausal sweats. I need an ice pack in my bra. Oh my goodness. Sorry, too much oversharing, Leezá. All right, we good?
Yeah.
All right, Q5, take 1. And welcome back. I love this part of the show because I'm able to direct your viewer questions to our guests, and I look forward to you answering our first one now, Leezá.
Okay, well, that's a great question, how to show up authentically. The way that I define authenticity is to be congruent inside and out. So I'm not presenting a different face than what I'm experiencing inside of myself. And the way that I think that is really useful to do is the question that I ask is, where is the light in the room coming from? So meaning that if you're on stage and there's a spotlight on you, the light is external and it's shining on you. And that's how a lot of people feel that they are in business. If they're presenting, if they're in conversation with a superior or employee, what have you, that the light is on them. And what people tend to do then is hide, become fearful, self-conscious. They are not able to access their power and their expertise. And so if you, however, are, let's say you're looking for something and you're holding a flashlight, a spotlight in your hand, and you're looking for something, then you shine that light where you want it to go. And you are seeking that which you want. And so the way that I suggest to people to find that power in themselves is to recognize that they get to be the light in the room. They direct their light where they want it to go. And so if you're working with someone who, or in a team where there is perhaps discrimination, if you're a woman and you feel like things are constantly coming down on you, is to stand in that place of, I'm going to shine my light here. This is my expertise. Let me explain to you why it's working well this way. Let me tell you why the idea I had would be useful to you. I hear your question. Let me answer it in such a way that I think you can understand, so that your orientation is internal and allowing that light to shine outward into the world, your expertise, your potential to come out through you, rather than hiding, feeling like someone's shining a light on you and you now need to show up in a way that they are expecting you to show up. So that's a tool that I encourage people to use, and it's been really successful.
Oh, brilliant tool and fantastic question from our viewer. So thank you so much. I love what you shared there, Leezá, because I'm even imagining, here I am on set actually with you. So you have light shining on, you go, this is who they see. But if my internal compass, if you like, or my internal light that I'm imagining now is not congruent, there's going to be a whole space there. Is that what you're seeing? That, sometimes it's like, how can you move who you are to what people see, and actually get that stage in your life that you go, you know what, I'm just showing up. This is who I am. And I actually think this is what people see. 100% congruence.
Yes, and it absolutely, Annie. And it's not a license to kill. It doesn't mean that you have to be brash or anything like that. I'm a direct person. Other people are maybe quieter. I mean, everybody has their way of being in the world. That's perfect. Being exactly the way that you are is being authentic, and trusting that. So that when you are received by a team, by an employer, by your clients, what have you, and you've been showing up as you really are, then you are rock solid sure that you are the one that they want, exactly the way that you are and what you bring to the table. If they say they don't want you, you have the same assurance. Wow, that is not a good fit. You don't have to question, gosh, if I had only really brought my true self, maybe it would have worked. You bring your true self, and if they don't match up, then you know it's time to go separate ways. And you can bring your gifts elsewhere where they are seen and wanted for exactly the way that you show up.
I love that. And that moment can be huge. It's a big, bold, brave moment of going, oh, that's that next step into, okay, I'm going to intentionally choose to find that next path for me because it's a better space for me. And it feels risky and it feels scary. And we could talk about that one as well. But we do have another fantastic viewer question now, because I know many of you do struggle with, okay, I start showing up authentically, but how does that actually, help me in my career, in my opportunities? And what happens if I suddenly start showing up and I'm not too sure about what that looks like? So over to you, Leezá.
Okay. Well, one thing that I speak about is that multitasking is a fallacy. It's something we've bought that we can focus on two things at one time. It's not possible. The brain is binary. It's either on or off, yes or no, black or white, but it toggles at lightning speed. And so when we have a belief of, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not going to make it? We're putting our attention on that, which is fine. But we can also put our attention on, what if I'm the best thing they've ever seen? What if this is exactly what this team, company, client needs, and I'm the only one that can produce it or offer it? So we have a choice in which one of those questions we pose, and that choice, making it consistently for the one of, what if I am the best? What if what I bring is absolutely good? Will help train our neurology to know that really is so in that situation. I think that I think that when we are authentic with ourselves, it's an honest conversation. There are areas like math, numbers. You don't want me to help you with that. I'm very clear about that. That's not my expertise, right? But helping you to have teams that work well together, or resolve conflict, or to help you find out core beliefs that you want to change. Boy, that's my wheelhouse. And I know I can do that well. And I love doing that. So I think it's a matter of being honest with ourselves, looking at the things that we can improve, or maybe that's not the area we should be working in, and be honest about that. And also to own the areas that we're great at, and to own our value. And that takes courage sometimes, especially when we've been taught that that's not okay, as I had been.
I love that. And I'd love to share an example of what that looked like for me, Leezá, if you don't mind. When I went for my first CEO role, I had so many people telling me that I wouldn't be successful, and for all the reasons why I wouldn't be successful. And it was so funny that I then went, okay, well, I'll treat it as a game, and I'll also just put this, what if I could, crazy. I had a whole outline of what I was going to do as their change management CEO, and I gave them handouts and I spoke to it almost like a different character, but I had to imagine myself with none of those negative beliefs, and I was successful, and I ended up becoming a fabulous CEO. But it was that moment of that I could see the distinct choice of, at that time, if I accepted all of those comments from other people, and even my deep down thinking, I'm not good enough for this next step, to actually just boldly take that big move and go, well, what if I am? and then what's it going to take, do the hard work, and then start seeing things with a different perspective. I actually, from that day, it lifted me. I don't just think one level, I think 10 levels of what is truly possible. And now I see that happening day in, day out. And so I love what you shared there. And I'm thankful to our viewer for asking that question, because all of us will have those moments. You can see so many successful people, you're thinking they've never had a moment of doubt. They don't worry about, am I good enough? Yes, they do. We all do, right? I'm sure you do at times, Leezá.
I definitely have. And when it gets to a point recently I did a leadership training, and I had a participant who was very vocal and very unhappy. And he was vocal about his unhappiness, not only with the training, but with himself, with the organization, and so forth. And what I find now is when I'm challenged that way, when somebody points their finger and says, you this and you that, is I'm able to really take that in and first check with myself, is there credence in what this person's saying? Like, can I rectify something? And I make that overt. It's like, let me think about that for a minute. I hear what you're saying, but let me ask, if it's not mine, if it's mine, I'll own it. But if it's not mine, I try and understand the other person. So curiosity is one of the best tools that you can use if you're uncertain. If somebody's coming at you, try and understand them. Why do you think that? Why are you saying that? I don't understand. Can you explain that to me? It's not only a helpful tool to slow things down, it gives you a lot more information, and it helps that person understand that you really want to know. And then you're in relationship with them, and the whole dynamic changes.
Absolutely. Well said. What a great way to finish our show today. Thank you so much, Leezá. You've been an amazing guest. So much information and value there. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Annie. I appreciate it.
And thank you to our viewers. You are absolutely wonderful. Keep those questions coming in. It's just so practical, so much wisdom shared on this show. And I totally agree and align with what Leezá finished with. That curiosity. Be more fascinated about other people's perspectives. Why do they think that? Why do they feel that? And then start realizing, wow, we're all so different. It becomes then interesting rather than confronting and challenging. And then start focusing on where you could actually rise in your business and life. I look forward to hearing your success stories. Until next episode, take care.